Do you ever find yourself working on a theme, copying and pasting the same bit of code from file to file? Well, Ghost has a solution for that. It's called Partials. And by the end of this tutorial, you'll be a Partials pro. Let's get into it. So imagine here you've created a postcard on your home page. And let's get this. So you have this card here that you've created, and you want to then use this not only on your home page, but then maybe also on other index pages. So this is like page 2 of your site, but then also maybe on your author page, and then also on your tag page. And so then you have this problem here where you are copy and pasting the code of this card to these different pages in your theme. And it creates a bit of a maintenance headache because once you update it in one place, you've got to update it in the other places. And the solution to this problem is Partials. A partial is a handlebars helper for reusing chunks of a template. It's like a mini template that can't stand alone, but is intended to be used as a component of other templates. They're perfect for postcards, as we saw, but also things like the header, an icon, a call to action, and lots more. Okay, so let's talk about how to use a partial. So in front of us, we have the Ghost site for the publication of Record, which is a fictional publication about vinyl and listening to music. And if we scroll down here on the home page, we come to eventually the call to action to sign up to become a member of this publication. And we have another tutorial, which I'll link below, on how to build a custom sign up form. But this right here, this CTA, this call to action, is actually a partial in the theme. So let's look at the code for it and how it works to understand how to use a partial. So I'm gonna switch over here to VS Code, and I have the theme open. And the first thing you need to do when using a partial is create a partials folder inside the root of your theme files. So over here on the left-hand side, you can see I have a partials folder, and then all of my files inside of here will be treated and recognized as partials by Ghost. So you then create a handlebars file for the partial you want to create. So we have cta.hbs, which is the handlebars suffix. And so you can see that I have the handlebars file here for the CTA. Bringing in the image, it has the copy, and it has the form at the bottom. And then inside the home page here, this is our home page template, you can see that I'm bringing that partial in, and this is the syntax to bring a partial in. So you can see that there are the 2 curly braces and then a small right hand side caret arrow thing, and then you use the name of that partial, of that file. So what's going to happen here is when Ghost renders the home template, it's going to replace this little line here with the entirety of the CTA template and show everything together. And if you have the VS Code extension, our official VS Code extension, it'll recognize when you hover over this that this is a partial and give you a little bit more information on how to use it. In the next section, we will look at actually exactly how we built the postcard template to get a better understanding of how everything comes together. We're on the homepage for the Of Record publication, and what I want to just remind you is show you what the postcard looks like. So this is a postcard here, a big one. It's the first one, so we make it big. And then these are also all postcards, and what they do is they link to the post in question. So we are taken to the post in question, and we can see that there's some different variations here. So this one is text compared to the images, and this is all the same code behind the scenes. And so what we're going to look at now is how do we make this partial? What's the code that's underneath it? And we're going to jump back into the editor, and I have VS Code open here. So remember, we're in our partials folder, and this is the card.hbs file. And what I want to do is go through this file almost line by line to show you all the special Ghost things that are going on, which will help you really amp up your partial skills and abilities. All right, so we get right into it. We open up here a article, and this is just the standard HTML tag, but there are a few things that are going on here. There is this classes. I'm going to come back to that in the next section because that's a little bit more of an advanced usage of partials, but we'll get to it. And then there is an inline style tag that's happening here. And this is one that's a little interesting. And what we're doing is using a CSS custom property or a CSS variable to bring in the accent color on the primary tag. So with every tag that you create in Ghost, you can associate it with a color in Ghost admin. And so what we're doing is pulling in that color. And the color comes in as a hex code. So when this is rendered out, it's going to be a hex code. And if I come back here, so you can see if I hover over this, there's a certain color and the color changes, and that's where that's coming from. It's actually the code for the tag that's creating that. So this is just kind of an interesting way that you can use this accent color to bring some variation and fun and these like kind of micro interactions to your site. And it's very easy when you're using a partial to bring that in and to implement that. All right, the next line is checking here this if feature image. What we're doing is making sure that there is a feature image. And if there is, then we're going to run all the code underneath this between this block. So let me see here. So we have this if and then the else. And we'll come to that in a second, but let's talk about what's going on when there is a feature image on the post. So the first thing that we do is we wrap it with an anchor link with a link, and we use the URL from the post context. So this is basically going to make the image clickable, so we're able to click on it and go to the post, and we can just show that. So if I click on the image here, I'm taken to the post, and the reason that I can do that is because of this anchor link right here. We then come to the next element, which is the picture element, and the picture element is a complicated HTML element. It's standard HTML, but there's a lot that can go into it. And the reason for that is what we're trying to do here. The goal is to optimize image loading for the user. So when someone visits your site, they get the right size image in the smallest possible compression possible. So what that means is that if I come and visit your site and I'm on a very old phone that doesn't have a great screen, you're not going to serve me a 2000 pixel image. It makes sure, Ghost does this automatically, that the person's getting the right image in the right format. And the way that you do that is by using the picture tag. So what you can define are a bunch of different sources. And this is basically saying to the browser that there are all these different image sizes available and image formats available, and then the browser figures out what's the best one for the user. So in this first source here, we have a 30 pixel image, a 100 pixel image, a 300 pixel image, so on and so forth. And these are all in the AVIF format. This is a newer format on the web. It's way better in terms of file size than a JPEG, for instance. So like where a JPEG could be 60 or 70 KBs, and AVIF will be like 5. So it's such a substantial savings, and it means that your site's going to feel way faster. And what is nice is when you upload an image in Ghost, Ghost will convert that to AVIF for you automatically. Where these sizes are coming from is from your package.json file. So let me bring that up. This is the root file where that you configure the different settings for your theme. And if you come down here, you can see there's image sizes, and that's where these image sizes are defined. And you can define image sizes however you want. It's a good idea not to define too many because there's a lot of like processing that goes on in terms of converting the images. But you can figure out the ideal number for your site. And when we come back here, then what happens is you define a sizes attribute. This is the trickiest part. It's a media query. So you basically say which size image should you load at which viewport, depending on the size of the screen. Right now, you have to manually figure this out. Hopefully in the future, the browser will just do it for you. But what you can do, or what this is saying here, is that when the screen is at least 1200 pixels wide, serve the 1200 pixel image. And if not, when it's less than that, serve an image that's 100% the size of the screen. And so what the browser will do, will look for which image is closest to 1200 pixels, for instance, and then it'll serve that image. And it does calculate, it factors in, if you have a really fancy screen that has, a Retina screen or one of these high resolution screens, it knows that, and it will actually say, oh, we need even a bigger image than just 1200 pixels. And so all this will be figured out for you, but it then you have your first set of images, AVIF. If the browser doesn't support that, it'll fall back to this next set, which is WebP, which is also a newer format that's better than JPEG in terms of size. And then if not, it will fall back to whatever your original image you uploaded is, and that's what's in this last image tag, which is probably a little more familiar. And in it, you define your original image and the size you want for that. So this is the image URL helper from Ghost, which we provide to help generate the different sizes and image formats. I'll leave a link to this helper docs below, but it's really neat in terms of everything it can do. One last thing about this then is this alt tag. The alt tag is what provides the alternative text in case someone's using a screen reader or the image doesn't load for some reason. And we have here a little statement that says if there is an alt text on the image, which you should always set that's good for SEO and, like I said, for accessibility, then it's going to bring in that feature image text, the alt text. If not, it's going to bring in the title text. So it's just a little way to have a fallback in case you forget to set that text or you don't set it. This is a lot of code to write, and it can be tricky to do. So one of the nice things that you can actually do is what I'm going to do here is copy this. But let's delete this, and I'll show you a little shortcut we have to write this. So we have a VS Code extension, official VS Code extension, and one of the things that it provides is a helper for this. So if I type image here, and you can see that there's this image formats and there's a Ghost template helper. If I click this, it's going to automatically generate all of that text for us. So you can put a class here if you want a class, and then it will give you options for what the possible image could be. So when you're on a post, it's a feature image, but in different parts of your site where you might be using this, it could be a different type of image or have a different attribute. So we want feature image. And then you have to do your sizes query. So paste that in, and you can see that it updates not just the first block, but everywhere where that variable would be used. And then it allows you to choose your default. So we're going to have large here, and then it gives you some of the more common alt text potentials, including possibilities, including that if feature image alt one that I had showed you before. And if you want to use something different, that's totally fine too. You can just backspace over the predefined version option it gives you, and it will let you put in your own. And then that's it. So then what's nice here is it gives you that whole image picture tag without you having to write it all out. And what it's doing behind the scenes is actually reading in your image sizes from package.json. So it's a really nice, easy way to do that. All right, let's keep moving along. So we then close up this image or the anchor link, so the link tag, and then we have the else. So what this else again is going towards is if there's not a feature image, what should we do? And you can think of course, possibilities where you don't have a feature image, but you still want to have a nice display to your card. You don't want it to look broken. So what this says is when there's not a feature image, use this text instead. So it's not going to show any kind of image stuff. Instead, we show the excerpt, and we saw that in the code. Let's see, where was I? I think it was up a little bit. So here, instead of showing an image, we fall back to showing an excerpt from the post, and this can, you can do this kind of however you want, but it gives you this nice workflow to control, when there's an image and when there's not an image. All right, coming back then, actually the rest of the card is relatively simple. So we come down and we open up a div where we have the post card content, and we have the title and a link over the title. So this is the title here. We hover over it, and this will take us, of course, to the actual post. That's what's controlling it here, this line. So again, we're bringing in the URL of the post and then the post's title. And then there's two other things really to note. So we have the authors helper here. And what the authors helper does is it brings in a hot linked version of the author's name. And what that means is it wraps the author's name in a anchor link, in a URL. And so if we come back to this homepage, each one of these authors here are, it links to the actual author's profile automatically. And when there's more than one author, like on this post, it's actually going to give you a comma separated list with each of these linking to their respective authors automatically. And there are attributes where you can kind of, if you don't want it to link, or if you want to have some other kind of separator between them, you can configure all of that in the helper. Again, with our VS Code extension, you can actually hover over this and get more information about this helper, and then even it'll take you to the actual docs so you can see some more of the options for that. The last part of this is the comment count. So this is a nice way to show how many comments a particular post has. If it has 0 comments, then this won't render anything. But if it does have comments, then it will show how many comments are on the post. So if we come up here to the top one, you can see that there's 1 comment. So it'll automatically put things in plural or not in plural. And this is kind of cool just to show, which kind of engagement you have on your post. And again, this is also something that has some configuration. Right now we're just using in its default mode, but you can go to the docs and see more about what you can configure and what you can't configure. So this is the postcard partial. There might seem like there's a lot to it, but I think we broke it down in a way that you kind of get what all the different elements are for. In the next section, we're going to talk about this classes attribute here, and a more advanced option when working with partials. The time has come to talk about this classes. And what this is a custom property on the partial. And you can kind of get a better sense of it if we come to the home template and look how it's being used. So in this line 7 here, you can see that we're bringing in the partial card. And then we have this additional text here where we're defining classes as OR large text, so of record large text. And so what these custom properties or props let us do is pass information from the template where the partial is used to the actual partial. In this instance, we are using a custom property called classes to pass additional classes we want to feature on the component, on the card. And so the reason we're doing that is that this is the big image that we feature, the big card. So when we come back over here, this big one that we first have here. And what we're just doing is increasing the font size here and doing that by adding this additional class. So you can see here on the other partial cards, we don't include that. And so that allows us then in the partial itself to include or not include that. So what happens is when we include it, this class gets rendered out as that OR large text. And if not, then this just is blank. And this allows you to do different kind of dynamic things. So you can have even if statements that control different elements and make the card appear different depending on what's passed through. It's a little bit more of an advanced feature or use case, but it is something that you can do to pass information from the template to the partial and then affect styling, control flow, or do other kinds of behaviors depending on whether that prop is there or not. We have more examples in the docs, so check that out if you're interested. Partials are now part of your web development toolkit. In this tutorial, we showed you everything you needed to know to start using partials in your Ghost theme. We also have a written version of this tutorial linked below where we cover everything we covered in this video, but in even more detail. Another thing that I would highly recommend checking out if you are learning how to build with partials is to take a look at how we use partials in our official Ghost themes. And I'll leave links to all those examples below as well. And finally, if you're looking for other people who are building Ghost themes, come and join us on our forum, forum.ghost.org, where we talk about all things Ghost. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.